Is Helena going to be here?
She's there.
I'm here, Deborah.
Oh.
Can you see me?
There you are. That's okay. I'll wake up soon. I have about 5 seconds to do that, right? Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Well, okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. We are here together today to learn about proposals for minor variance to the zoning bylaw and applications for consent applying to certain lands in the municipality of Meaford. I will start by introducing members of this committee and staff. I am Deborah Young, committee chair. Our vice chair is Linda Van Ulst. We also have Terry Williams, Lynn Whitbeck, and Ed Ormsby, who are members of this committee as well. For staff, we have Kirsten Morris, who is the secretary treasurer of the committee and planner. Our planning staff in attendance include senior planner Margaret Potter, CAO and Director of Development Services, Rob Armstrong, and Helena Fascinato, who is the Vice Secretary Treasurer and Development Services Assistant. While this committee is legally required to make decisions that conform to the county and local official plans, the Planning Act and municipal policy and procedures encourage us to reach out to you, members of this committee, members of this community, to hear your thoughts about the proposed applications. Your constructive comments will help us learn more about your neighborhood, which in turn will help us make informed decisions. Those who have pre-registered for today's meeting will have an opportunity to speak. You do not have to be solely in support or opposition. It is okay to share your thoughts about those elements that you do and don't like about the proposal, and to ask questions as well. While the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to questions and comments raised, in some cases, we may need to have staff carry out research on matters raised and provide answers or additional information to you following the meeting. Anyone who wishes to receive notice of any decision on any of the applications being heard today will need to contact the Secretary Treasurer by email at planning@meaford.ca or by phone at 519-538-1060 extension 1119 to have their contact information added to the file for future notices. Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. Okay, the next item is the adoption of previous minutes. May I have a person to move and a person to second? Linda will move and Lynn will second. Are there any comments or questions about the minutes? Terry.
Just in several instances, the committee members were referred to as counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably should be, the term should be corrected.
That's a very good point, yeah. Anyone else? Okay. So we're going to go into the public meetings. Oh, I'm sorry. So, Linda, you've moved it. Do you have a question or do you want to vote?
Well, no, I was just going to remind you we have to vote.
I know, I realized that as soon as I turned the page. So, all those in favor? Against? Passed. Okay, we're going to the public meetings. The first one, this is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for minor variance under section 45 of the Planning Act, Plan 309, lots 665 and 667, part lot 668, Plan 404, Block A, reference Plan 16R-10999, Part 1, known municipally as 71 Edwin Street East, in the former town of Meaford, now in the municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days notice as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 200-96 to the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 10 days notice.
This notice was published on July 13th, giving more than the required 10 days notice.
Thank you. Helena, will you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
Sure. So application A08-2021 requests a variance to facilitate a roof replacement of an existing non-compliant structure on the property. The application requests relief from provisions 4.13C and 4.14.1B of zoning bylaw 60-2009, which permits a legal non-conforming use and non-complying structure to be repaired, replaced, or renovated, provided that the renovation does not increase the amount of floor area or volume in a required yard. The existing building footprint encroaches into the required side yard setback set out by the bylaw. The variance application asks permission to slightly increase the building volume within the side yard to facilitate a replacement of the roof, which will result in a height increase of approximately 19 centimeters. The replacement of the roof of the building does not exceed the height permissions of the bylaw and does not increase the amount of footprint or floor area that will be within the side yard setback required by the bylaw. However, because the existing building extends into the required side yard and the roof height is proposed to be slightly increased through the replacement, the building volume within the side yard will technically be increased. The existing and proposed height of the structure is illustrated on the attached sketch. The bird's eye site plan view shows the area of the roof to be replaced. The bylaw requires a 7.5 side yard setback, and the building exists at a 3.25 meter setback. So therefore, application A08-2021 requests relief from provision 4.13C and 4.14.1B of zoning bylaw 60-2009 to allow the volume to be increased within the required side yard of the legal non-conforming use and non-complying building by way of the roof replacement to a maximum height of 5.8 meters. And then, so comments were received from Grey County, who had no concerns with the application, as well as from Hydro One, who also had no comments or concerns. And then comments were also received from Grey Sauble, who had no objection, but noted that a permit may be required for the work from them prior to construction. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Kirsten, are there any additional comments to be made about regarding this file?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, this application, Helena did a really good job of explaining and summarizing the application. But essentially the roof needs to be replaced on a portion of this existing non-complying industrial building, which is occupied by a legal non-conforming use. The replacement will increase the height from 5.56 meters to 5.8 meters, which technically increases the volume within the required side yard. The bylaw permits non-complying structures and non-conforming uses to be enlarged or renovated as long as the volume is not increased in a required yard, and that the enlargement of a legal non-conforming use is limited to the property boundaries. So this building has been there since, from what we can tell from building permits on file, before 1989. And based on the very minor increase in height with the roof replacement, staff are not expecting any negative impacts on neighboring properties. The applicant is not proposing any change in use of the building, and the roof replacement will not increase the usability of the structure or increase the floor area for the use. So we're of the opinion that the variance can be approved, subject to a condition to limit the height to a maximum of 5.8 meters and to prevent any further encroachment into the side yard to ensure that no substantial change in usability or encroachment results from a slight increase in volume. And other than that, I'm happy to address any questions. And I believe the applicant's planner is also here and she has a little presentation as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So council's seen the, council, here I go. The committee, the members of the committee have visited the subject land. Do you have any comments or questions at the moment? Or do you want to wait until we've spoken? No comments at the moment? Okay, I'll call upon the members of the public present who wish to make comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kristen Rennie. I'm from Georgian Planning Solutions, and I'm the agent acting on behalf of the property owner on this project. I do have a presentation. However, Helena and Kirsten did a pretty well overview of the project. So I will sort of go through it quickly and then answer any questions and come back to any of the slides if need be, if that's all right with you.
That's great, thank you.
If we could move the slide to the next, thank you. As noted in the, as mentioned in the notice, the application before us this afternoon, I suppose, is.
Oh, sorry. I think Derek, you might.
This is the wrong presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two on the agenda tonight, so you guys have to wait a little while for this one. Sorry. There we go, the minor variance one.
That's right.
Thank you.
78, Edwin?
Yes, so
Okay,
the purpose
here
of,
we go.
yeah, here we go. So the purpose of the meeting, as mentioned in the notice, is for a minor variance A08-2021, and that's to facilitate a roof replacement on an existing non-complying structure. Next slide, please. As noted, the property is located at 71 Edwin Street in Meaford, and the legal description is quite long, so it's already been mentioned, so we'll skip to the next slide. The minor variance, we're asking for relief from two of the provisions within the zoning bylaw. So section 4.13C, and it was mentioned that that speaks to non-conforming uses that are permitted and allowing renovations and alterations within those legal non-conforming uses. The second section is 4.1.41B, and that speaks to non-complying building structures and enlargements or repairs or renovations, and allowing those on legal non-conforming uses where it does not increase the volume of a unit, and we are increasing the volume. However, it's within the roof line, so it's not increasing the usable space within the structure. And again, it's to permit the replacement of a roof on a portion of the property. If you skip to the next slide, it will show you the portion of the building that requires the roof replacement. With it's a flat roof right now, and there's been some water damage, so they need to replace it. And we are caught sort of in that provision because of the side yard setback, and you'll see that it shows the 3.25 meters when it should be within that zone category 7.5. So that's sort of how we get captured under that provision of the bylaw. Next slide, please. This just shows you the side of the building that the roof is going to be replaced from. So that's basically it. Sorry, go ahead.
It's the lower part of the building.
It's both. So it's
okay.
From above. Yeah, it's a sort of a staggered roof line, but they will both just be replaced that small minor area. It's not going to be matched to be one roof line, just the 6 inches across the two roofs. Because it's a minor variance, there are the 4 tests of the minor variance, and I just want to note that in my opinion, it's minor in nature. fulfills the intent and the purpose of both the local official plan and the zoning bylaw. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions in regards to this application.
Excellent, excellent. So, council, committee, do you have any questions? I had my question, so there you go. When I was looking at it, I thought, I'm assuming they were doing the whole building, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
So,
just a portion.
no questions? We're being cooperative. Okay. So you're lucky. Okay. So there's no other comments or questions that any of you have? Okay. Helena, please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of the variance.
Okay, so being that the 4 tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves a variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to provide relief from provisions 4.13C and provisions 4.14.1 to permit the replacement of the roof on an existing legal non-conforming and non-complying building, resulting in a minor increase of building volume in the required side yard, subject to the following condition. That the height of the structure with the replacement roof does not exceed 5.8 meters and does not encroach any further into the interior side yard than the existing structure.
Okay. May I have a mover and somebody to second that proposal? Terry and Ed. Now, are there any final questions or comments? We try to make sure that everything's cleared up before, and so if anybody has, instead of it creating, going down on one opinion or whatever. So we encourage people to speak up now. Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay, so Helena, could you explain what happens now?
Yep. So notice will go out later this week, which will begin the 20-day appeal period for the application.
Of course, you would know that, right?
Thank you. We'll see
I
you
appreciate
later.
your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next. Okay, this is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for a minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act, Plan 309, Lot 1182 and 1185, known municipally as 78 St. Vincent Street in the former town of Meaford, now in the Municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days notice as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 200-96 to the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 10 days notice.
Yep. So this notice was published on July 19th, giving 10 days notice.
Okay. Helena, would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
Yeah. So application A09-2021 requests a variance to facilitate a replacement and enlargement of an existing non-complying detached garage on the property. The application requests relief from Table 6.2.1 of Zoning Bylaw 60-2009, which requires an interior side yard setback of 1.2 meters, and provision 4.14.1, which permits a non-complying structure to be enlarged or replaced, provided that the enlargement or replacement does not further encroach or increase the amount of floor area volume in a required yard. The replacement garage is proposed to be sited in the same location as the existing structure. However, the applicant proposes to increase the size of the garage from approximately 26.4 meters squared to approximately 34 meters squared, with an addition to the back of the existing garage footprint of 1.83 meters in length. The applicant also proposes to slightly increase the height from what is existing to approximately 3.9 meters from 3.4 meters, which is in keeping with the permitted bylaw standards for height of an accessory structure. However, this will also increase the volume in the required side yard. Therefore, the application requests that the south interior side yard setback for the garage be reduced from 1.2 meters to 0.4 meters. Thus also requesting relief from provision 4.14.1 of the bylaw to allow the encroachment and increase of floor area / volume into the required 1.2 meter side yard by way of the addition and replacement. The variance will facilitate the enlargement and replacement of an existing non-compliant garage to accommodate more storage space. So there was one comment received from Grey County, and they noted that the subject lands are located within an intake protection zone and events-based area, which are largely concerned with the storage of large quantities of fuel. Given that this proposal is to rebuild a residential garage, these features should not hinder the subject application. Therefore, Grey County has no further concerns.
Okay, thank you. Kirsten, do you have any additional comments?
Yes, thank you. So as Helena has mentioned, this application requests to replace and enlarge an existing non-compliant detached garage on the property. And the existing garage is cited 0.4 meters from the south interior side lot line. And the applicant would like to replace the garage in the same footprint, but also extend it towards the back of the property with a small addition on the back. The bylaw would allow the structure to be replaced in the same footprint as of right, but because the height of the garage will be increased and the footprint will be enlarged, the variance is required. The applicant has provided a cover letter which indicates that the existing laneway provides direct access to the current location of the garage. And if the garage were to be moved over to the required 1.2 meter side yard setback, they would need to remove their deck to provide access to the back of the property. They've also identified that the adjacent neighbor to the south, who would be the most affected by the variance request, is aware of the proposed replacement and also provides access through her property for the applicants to access the side yard when required. As we know, the bylaw would allow the replacement or enlargement of this garage as long as it doesn't further encroach into a required yard, increase the floor area or the volume in a required yard, increase a situation of non-compliance, and compliance with all the other applicable provisions of the bylaw. So in this case, we have an existing non-compliant garage that could be replaced as is. So it's important to focus the evaluation on the impact of the increase in volume in addition to the back of the garage. So we've noted in the staff report that we don't expect significant impacts to result from the slight increase in volume and increase in floor area, and that the location of the existing garage is consistent with what exists in the neighborhood. So keeping the garage in the same location will generally be in line with the character of the area and neighboring lots. We're recommending approval to reduce the interior side yard setback to 0.4 meters, recognize the existing encroachments, and allow a replacement and enlargement, which increases the floor area and volume in the required side yard to not less than 0.4 meters, and to permit the south roof overhang to encroach into the required side yard by 0.3 meters. We've recommended conditions that the proposed replacement and enlargement occur substantially as what is shown on the site plan and the drawings that were submitted with the application, and that the eaves of the garage roof along the south side lot line be designed and constructed to direct stormwater away from the neighboring property to the satisfaction of the chief building official. And that condition has been recommended in order to ensure that there are no further negative drainage impacts on the neighboring lots as a result from the change in roof pitch. And other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Okay. Has each member of the committee seen the subject lands? Does any member of the committee have a comment with respect to their site visit or anything else with the application? Okay, I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Is there anyone available? Okay,
Oh,
Oh, hi. Oh, hi. Hello?
yes, hi.
Hi, I'm
Um,
appearing as Natalie Chakroche, but I'm actually the owner, Natalie Suhanic. I'm not sure why a very old last name is appearing on my computer. I don't have anything further to add to what's already been submitted through our paperwork and Kirsten, but I'm just here in case anybody has any questions for us.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I'm going to ask again, does anybody have a question or comment about this? Linda Van Olst.
Okay, so really this doesn't have anything to do with the application itself because the addition is going up and to the back, correct?
Right.
I'm
Yep.
just wondering what happens, and I know they're on good neighborly terms right now, but what happens in the future if the property is sold or something happens and they have no way to get to the south side of that building to do any repairs or anything? As I said, it doesn't really affect this.
yeah,
You know well enough that many people, it's fine for the first set of neighbors, but then somebody moves in and.
Yeah, I could answer that question.
Okay, okay.
Well, we've purchased this property at 78 St. Vincent Street, and it's been basically left in decay for the last, I don't know how many years. The property has had no, no tree care, which now we're doing, no care to the existing driveway or the interior of the house, which we're in the process of renovating the house. So we're in rebuilding the garage. We're actually allowing for the neighbor to have a much sounder building in her backyard. The garage had asbestos tile, which we had removed and properly disposed of at great cost, unexpected cost to us. So we've done that responsibly. So I think that if any future, obviously, maybe someone else will buy that property eventually, I think they'll be very happy with what's being done to our property, i.e. their neighbors, and a very beautiful garage that has siding and an eaves trough and a new roof. Right now, the roof is, flying off, and the garage is about to collapse. So, yeah, I guess that's my answer. You always risk that there could be a problem, but we don't foresee that there would be a problem at all with a future neighbor because the garage that will be built will be in beautiful condition, and we are purchasing this property with the intention of staying there for a very long time and upgrading it and taking care of it, it has not been taken care of for many, many years.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that helps.
Kirsten, do you have any comment?
I was just going to say that, they could, it's kind of out of the scope of the variance because it is existing there at the 0.4 meters and they have a good relationship with their neighbor. But I suppose I'd mentioned that they could consider some type of agreement with their neighbor, a written agreement to be registered. But in terms of the variance, it's kind of out of our scope of what we would recommend just because it's existing and yeah.
Okay, Linda, does that answer your question or?
Oh, sure. I mean, I shouldn't have asked it because I know it doesn't have to do with the variance, but it just that it worries me because I know how neighbors can change and sometimes,
Yes.
but I'm sure
Linda's
they
been
have
on council, has been a counselor too long. She understands this. Yeah. So, but that answers your question?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Are there, is there anyone else who, oh, Terry?
Just so that I can know for sure, there were no comments registered from the neighbor to the south?
That's right. We didn't receive any comments from anybody on this application other than the county.
Thank you.
My understanding was that the owner of the property is keeping her neighbor informed of what's going on.
Oh yes, yes, I've been keeping her informed all through ever since we moved in of what's going on, and texting her with timelines. And as soon as the application went in, I spoke to her. So we're on good terms with Rosemary, and I think she's quite pleased that we're going to be improving the property.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any further questions? Helena, would you please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of the variance? Please.
So being that the 4 tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves the variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to provide relief from provision 4.1.1.3 F in section 4.14.1 and 4.6 of bylaw 60-2009 as amended to reduce the required interior side yard setback for the proposed replacement and enlargement of the garage from 1.2 meters to 0.4 meters. To recognize the existing non-complying garage encroachment and allow a replacement and enlargement which increases the floor area / volume into the required interior side yard to not less than 0.4 meters, and to permit the south roof overhang to encroach into the required side yard by 0.3 meters rather than 0.2 meters, as would be permitted by the bylaw, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the proposed replacement and enlargement occur substantially as shown on the site plan and drawings submitted alongside minor variance application A09-2021, and that the eaves of the garage roof along the south lot line be designed and constructed to direct stormwater away from the neighboring property to the satisfaction of the chief building official.
Okay, may I ask someone to move and someone to second this proposal? Linda and Lynn. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Would you please, Helena, would you please explain what happens now for the
Yep, so Natalie, notice will go out later this week, which will begin the 20-day appeal period for the application.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Are you ready, Helena? Oh,
I'm ready.
Okay, we're going into the next meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act. St. Vincent Concession 8, Part Lot 14, Reference Plan 16R-11185, Parts 1, 4, and 5, known municipally as 137845 Gray Road 12 in the former Township of St. Vincent, now in the Municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days notice as prescribed by Ontario Regulation 200-96 to the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 10 days notice.
Yep, so this notice was published on July 19th, giving 10 days notice.
Thank you. Would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
Sure, so application A10-2021 requests a variance to the existing zoning, which permits construction of an institutional building containing a private school and place of worship. The application requests relief from provision 9.280.12 of zoning bylaw 60-2009, which requires a maximum gross floor area of 675 meters squared and a maximum height of 8.1 meters. These permissions were established through a site-specific zoning amendment and were based on the original application submission. Following the approvals for the use, detailed design of the proposed building confirmed that a larger building would be required to accommodate the congregation and for the design drawings to meet requirements of the Ontario Building Code. Therefore, application A1021 requests that the permitted gross floor area be increased to 935 meters squared and the maximum permitted height be increased to 10.4 meters squared. These variances will facilitate the construction of an institutional building for a school and place of worship as intended by the zoning permissions. So comments were received from our municipal building department, who noted that there's no record of an existing septic system on the lands and that they have no concerns at this time. Comments were also received from Grey County's Transportation Services, who reviewed the application and commented that road widening is not required, that a commercial entrance permit is required from them, and the setback for structures is 75 feet from the center line of Grey Road 12. County staff noted that although outside of the scope of the current minor variance application, the applicant should also be aware that the development may require a sign permit from the county. Provided that Transportation Services comments can be met, county staff had no further concerns with the application. And then finally, comments were also received from Grace Sobel. They had generally no objection, but noted that an engineered lot grading and drainage plan will be required to support the anticipated permit application to their office for site development within the regulated area. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Kirsten, do you have additional comments to make?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, this property received approvals previously to allow an institutional main building on the lot for a church and private school through a county and local official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. And the zoning bylaw that was passed included a maximum floor area and a maximum height. And those numbers were based on the original concept plan provided at the time of the original approvals. And as Helena has mentioned, through the detailed design process, the applicant has determined that more space was required to accommodate the amount of space required for the school and church, and have requested a variance to increase the permitted gross floor area to 935 square meters and a maximum height to 10.4 meters. A planning justification letter was provided with the application, which identifies that increase in floor area and that increase in height won't change the usability of the lot or increase traffic significantly with the addition of one additional classroom. Staff agree with the findings in that report and have evaluated the application against the 4 tests of a minor variance. And we've determined that the application meets those 4 tests based on a few things. Number 1 being that the church and the school is a permitted use on the lot as approved through the previous planning processes. Number 2, that the increase in height and floor area will not change the intent of the use or the usability of the property. And the 3rd being that the impact on adjacent properties is expected to be minor and a significant increase in traffic is not expected. Because site plan approval doesn't apply based on the agricultural zoning of the property, we've recommended conditions to ensure that the barrier-free parking spaces will be paved with free path of travel to the main entry in accordance with the parking standards of the bylaw, and that the construction be generally in accordance with the plans provided for the minor variance, and with any minor modifications to ensure that the fire route is designed and constructed to the satisfaction of the fire department and the chief building official, Those are things that we would generally look at through site plan approval, but because the zoning is an agricultural zone, site plan approval is exempt. So we just wanted to add those in there to make sure that those are addressed. And then in regards to Grey Sallow Conservation Authority comments, I just wanted to mention that the lot grading or the engineered lot grading and drainage plan will be required as part of the building process, as well as their Grey Sallow Conservation Authority permit process with their regulated lands. And they had also just mentioned that the applicant consult with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to confirm any potential requirements related to threatened and endangered species. And I just wanted to mention that we went through the previous staff reports on the previous approvals, and they had mentioned in those reports that the MECP had already been contacted and they didn't have concerns with the proposed developments because most of the land has already been in active agriculture. Other than that, I'm happy to address any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Does any member of the committee have any comments at this time or questions? Okay. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning.
Good afternoon, it's Christine Loft. I'm the agent on behalf of the landowner, and I have a brief presentation, if that's okay. Thank you. So thank you. I'm just going to, Kirsten has done a great overview. So I think if we can just slip to the third slide. I think, actually, sorry, I guess I'll just go back to the location quickly, just so that everyone knows where we are. So the property is 137-845 Gray Road 12. As staff indicated, there were planning approvals in 2019 and 2020, and we did receive approval in September of 2020 for an official plan amendment, as well as a zoning bylaw amendment to permit the proposed uses at the time, which was the private school and place of worship. And the permissions were included in site-specific exceptions to the agricultural zone and within the OPA, the agricultural designation. Next slide. So the request for relief then is twofold. It's for the gross floor area as well as the maximum height. And at the time of the OPA and the zoning, we had provided a concept plan, but through the detailed design, as staff mentioned, it was determined that these additions were preferred in order to satisfy the owners and obtain the area within the structure that's required. Next slide. And so this is the updated proposal, and it is still very similar to what was before council at the time of the OPA and the zoning. So the variance, the minor variances do maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan. The proposed use remains the same as what it was during the OPA and the zoning process. And the most significant change is the addition of a single classroom. So there were 3 classrooms proposed, and there are now 4 classrooms proposed. In terms of the zoning bylaw, the general intent and purpose is maintained. The lands are 4 hectares in lot area. The site-specific zoning bylaw amendment limited the gross floor area to 675 square meters, which was the proposal at the time of the OPA and the zoning application. So the proposal now is for a total gross floor area of 935 square meters. However, that's actually only a proposed expansion of 153 square meters ground floor and an additional mezzanine at 107 square meters. So I do have a slide that says all this, but I just thought it would be clearer to probably be looking at a picture while I go through some of these numbers. So in terms of setbacks from front yard and interiors and rear yard, the setbacks are met, and there was an additional 30-meter setback from the EP zone that was required as well, and that has been met. So the overall permitted lot coverage would be approximately 1.69%, and we are requesting 2.07%, which is certainly well within the typical lot coverage requirements, really in any other zone within your zoning bylaw. Just as an example, and maybe I'll just skip forward to the summary slide now, just so you can see. So just in terms of, I'm just speaking now at number 2. Your other zones in terms of lot coverages permit 30 to 50% lot coverage in a residential zone, and there are no coverages within your commercial or industrial zones, and no lot coverages within the ag or the rural zones. So we do feel that certainly the just over 2%, we're certainly well within a typical lot coverage. The adjacent closest home is approximately 86 meters, which is the house to the south. And there's a house on the opposite side of the road on the west side at 138 meters. With regard to height, the original application was for a single-story structure, and the proposed structural drawings now include a second-floor mezzanine, which is what is increasing our height request. So the mezzanine would increase the height to 10.36 meters, and the maximum height within the site-specific bylaw is 8.1. And that's simply because at the time we had proposed only a single structure. And so staff was trying to provide a bylaw that was implementing the proposed concept plan. And so within the bylaw was the 8.1 meter maximum on the height. So in terms of the height then, in the rural areas and residential areas, a single detached dwelling or farm accommodation can have a maximum height of 11 meters, and commercial or industrial uses are provided a maximum height of 11 meters. So certainly our 10.36 meter request is not an unusual request, and would generally still meet the typical height restrictions within your other zones, including what you would permit for a single detached dwelling. And the last bullet in that section 2 is that it's worth noting that the specific uses like a vet clinic, a farm produce outlet, wineries, private clubs, and home industries have a minimum lot area of 2 hectares and the similar required 30-meter setbacks, but have no maximum gross floor area or lot coverage. So we're at 4 hectares and still providing what we would consider to be quite a low lot coverage on a 4-hectare area. So in our opinion, the application is minor. The current gross floor area limitations of 675 would be approximately 1.69% lot coverage, and we're requesting the 2.07 lot coverage. The other comparable zone requirements have minimum lot areas of 2 hectares and 30-meter setbacks with no specifics on lot coverage. And the original proposal at the time of the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment was shown at a building size of 675 square meters. And it is our opinion that at that time, staff did propose those numbers in the draft documents based on our concept plan, and that there wasn't an intent at the time of limiting the lot coverage to 1 or 2% on a 4-hectare site. And lastly, is the use desirable? We did go through quite a lengthy approval process for the OPA and the zoning, and those documents were approved late last year and did determine the appropriateness of the use. And in my opinion, the use or the proposed use in this application has not changed at all from the original request. And that we're only going through detailed design now and working our way through to a building permit process. And it's just being determined that the additional 153 square meters of ground floor and the additional mezzanine makes for a more suitable structure. And as also noted in the staff report or in the planning report from my company, that the Ontario Building Code regulations for these types of uses do include additional spaces that I don't think were anticipated at the time of the original concept plan, specifically related to washroom facilities, as well as fire hall corridors and accessibility. So those are my comments. I would note that Mr. Penner is on the line representing Georgian Heights as well, if there's any questions that I'm unable to answer. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions or comments raised that you want to raise right now? Helena, would you provide us with, oh, I'm sorry,
Excuse
Terry.
me, Deborah, just a question. Can I understand what the intended usage of the mezzanine was going to be for?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So the mezzanine is an open space that would look down into the church area. So it would be an open space, certainly could be somewhat of a breakout room, but would be open to the place of worship on the lower level.
Okay, so it was not an increase because of a percentage increase in attendees for the church?
No.
Thank you.
Now, if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the group who has been renting the Bogner Hall in the past?
Through the chair, through you, that is correct.
Yeah, so like they all fit in the Bogner Hall.
Correct.
Okay, that gives you an idea. That came out wrong. You know what I mean? It gives you an idea of the number of people who would be attending on an average Sunday. Okay. Okay, now, Helena, would you provide us with the suggested decision and the conditions of the variance, please?
Okay, so the suggested decision is, being that the four tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves a variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to provide relief from section 9.280.12 of bylaw 60-2009 as amended to increase the permitted gross floor area of the institutional main building from 675 meters squared to 935 meters squared, and to increase the maximum permitted height for the institutional main building from 8.1 meters to 10.4 meters, subject to the following conditions. One, that barrier-free parking spaces shall be paved together with barrier-free path of travel to the main entry in accordance with section 5.12 of the zoning bylaw. And two, that the construction be generally in accordance with the plans provided with any minor modifications to ensure the fire route is designed and constructed to the satisfaction of the fire department and the chief building official.
May I ask someone to move and to second the proposal? Ed and Terry. Okay. Are there any questions or comments? May I call the vote? All in favor? Carried. Helena, would you please explain what happens next?
Yep, so notice will go out later this week, which will begin the 20-day appeal period for the application.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it when people come to help us out. And well, thank you for coming. And let's hope this all gets built really quickly. I have to say that as a little aside, I had to drive past it to go to Meaford, and so I drove past it, and then I picked up my package and I organized myself so I could see the various places. And I always make sure that I have a GPS so that I'm to make sure I have the, where I'm going in the right direction as quickly as possible. My GPS sent me on quite a trip. Took me about an hour to come back from it. So it was quite an experience. So I don't know why it told me to turn right, and I believed it. So don't always believe your GPS.
Good advice.
Yes.
Thank you for your consideration.
Oh, you're very welcome. I hope the staff is treating you well.
Yeah, they've been doing excellent.
That's what I've heard. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
interest.
Have a great
Okay.
day.
Same to you. Bye-bye. Okay. Okay, so the next meeting, this is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding Concession 9, West Part Lot 3, known municipally as 63446 Sunny Valley Road in the former Township of Sydenham, now in the Municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed by Section 53-5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had 14 days notice.
Yep, so this notice was published on July 13th, giving more than the required 14 days notice.
Thank you. Helena, would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
Sure, so application B0921 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant portion of land measuring approximately 5.26 acres in size with approximately 140 meters of frontage on Sunny Valley Road for the purpose of lot creation. Application B1021 requests municipal consent to sever a vacant parcel of land measuring approximately 3 acres in size with approximately 80 meters of frontage on Sunny Valley Road for the purpose of lot creation. The retained parcel of land with existing dwelling and shed will maintain an area of approximately 93.34 acres with approximately 455.8 meters of frontage on Sunny Valley Road. And so for comments received, so our municipal building department noted that there's no record of an existing septic system on the lands and that they have no concerns at this time. Our municipal transportation services approved the proposed entrances, noting that brushing would be required for improved sight lines. They also commented that the Lot 2 entrance location is close to the 120 meters of site to the east and would need to be 1.5 meters off of the west boundary of that lot as marked, and that the entrances may not be joined together. And then so Grey County generally had no comments or concerns. Bell Canada and Hydro One also had no comments regarding the application. Enbridge Gas commented that they do have service lines running through the area and that the applicant will need to contact them prior to any work being performed close to their services. And then finally, Grace Sobel commented that if future development is outside of the H4 holding provision area on Lot 1 and site alteration and development on the lots take place outside of the breeding bird nesting season, that negative impacts would be minimized. And they also recommended that appropriate sediment and erosion control measures should be applied throughout development to ensure no deleterious materials enter into the adjacent wetland feature. If any of the threatened or endangered species noted above are identified on the subject property, Grace Sobel recommended consulting with the Ministry or MECP, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, to confirm any potential requirements. And then finally, they noted that any additional setback requirements should be confirmed throughout the municipality.
Thank you. Thank you. Kirsten, do you have any further comments to make on this?
Yes, thank you. So I was just going to kind of summarize the official plan policies for lot creation and the rural designation, and just speak to some of Grace Obel's comments and the recommended conditions. So this property is designated rural by the official plan. The local official plan policies for the rural designation support lot creation based on the lot density of the original township lot. The local OP allows 5 total lots on an original 200-acre township lot, and the county allows an additional lot. So the county allows 6 under their official plan. So this proposal for 2 additional lots would create a total of 5 lots on the original 200-acre township lot, which is lot 3, concession 9, as there was a severance conditionally approved on the adjacent property to the east last year. So based on that, the lot density policy is met. The other applicable policies to consider are that the severance won't remove good agricultural land from production. The lots are no smaller than 0.8 hectares in size. They conform to minimum distance separation from nearby barns. They don't exceed a frontage to depth ratio of 1:3. Entrances are available to a publicly open and maintained road, and they can be appropriately serviced by private services, and they will not have a negative impact on environmentally sensitive features in the area. So in the report, we've identified that all of those policies have been addressed for this proposal. And then in regards to the environmentally sensitive features, Grace Obel has identified in their comments that significant woodlands do exist on the property, but based on the proposed location of the lots and the wider width of lot 1, which is the corner lot on the northwestern corner, as well as the H4 holding symbol that's already on that lot associated with the wetland feature to the west, no condition is required in relation to the significant woodland or an environmental impact study. They've also identified significant habitat features for the threatened species of eastern meadowlark and bobolink. Thus, they've recommended that site alteration and development on both lots take place outside of the breeding bird nesting season, which is April 1st to August 15th, in accordance with the Migratory Birds Convention Act. And they recommend that appropriate sediment and erosion control measures be applied throughout the development works to ensure no materials enter the adjacent wetland feature. So based on those recommendations, we recommended as an additional condition to the payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication, that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to act as notification of Grace Obel Conservation Authority's recommendations, and to ensure site alteration and development take place outside of the breeding bird nesting season, to ensure the appropriate sediment and erosion control measures are applied, and to act as notification of the species at risk habitat identified, and to notify the landowners of future obligation to discuss with the MECP any obligations in accordance with the Endangered Species Act. So yeah, other than that, I'm happy to address any questions that you might have.
Okay. So has each member of the committee seen the property, and do you have any comments or questions about it? Okay, I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ron Davidson. Good afternoon. I am the planning consultant. I represent Enos Martin. I believe Enos might be on the phone as well. In fact, I see he is on.
Yes.
Not on the computer. In the event that you have questions I can't answer, I'm going to be very brief. Kirsten did a thorough job in presenting the application. I don't really have a whole lot to say. I will say that we pre-consulted with the Conservation Authority long before we filed this application to deal with things such as significant woodlands, because we knew they were to the west and to the north. And it was actually the Conservation Authority's suggestion that we move the one lot. We were originally going to make the 2 lots the same size and not take up as much width, but it's kind of a low-lying area. And there is actually a pond on the very west side of the property. So we ended up just doubling the size of the first lot and then pushing the second lot over, if anybody was wondering why one lot was bigger than the other. So yeah, we had the blessing of the Conservation Authority up front before we filed the application. I will note that there are two lots, vacant lots of almost identical size to our largest lot here right across the road. I know the home builder that owns both of them, or I'm aware of the fact that he's probably going to start building on those homes or on those two vacant lots sooner than later. So we're certainly not introducing new residential lots into an area. And then for what it's worth, and it's not a planning matter, but these two building lots will be quite nice. It's a very scenic part of your municipality. Yeah, somebody will be very fortunate to be able to live down there. That's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So, may I have from you, Helena, the suggested decision and conditions of severance for consent? Helena?
Yes, so there will be two decisions to vote on. So decision B09 2021 will read, the committee in reviewing the subject application determined it to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved subject to the following conditions. Payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication, and that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to act as notification of Grace Abel's recommendations to ensure site alteration and development take place outside of the breeding bird nesting season of April 1st to August 15th in accordance with the Migratory Birds Convention Act. To ensure appropriate sediment and erosion control measures are applied through future development and site alteration so that the adjacent wetland feature is protected, and to act as notification of the species at risk habitat identified on site and obligations of the landowners at the time of future works on the lands to undertake any obligations in accordance with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks and the Endangered Species Act.
Okay, may I have someone move and second that proposal? Linda and Lynn. Okay, members of the committee, do you have any questions or comments at this time before we vote? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Passed. Helena, would you please explain what happens next?
Yeah. So next I'll just read the decision for B10 2021 as well.
Very good.
So the committee in reviewing the subject application determined it to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved subject to the following conditions. 1, payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication, and 2, that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to act as notification of Grace Abel's recommendations to ensure site alteration and development take place outside of the breeding bird nesting season of April 1st to August 15th in accordance with the Migratory Birds Convention Act. To ensure appropriate sediment and erosion control measures are applied through future development and site alteration so that the adjacent wetland feature is protected, and to act as notification of the species at risk habitat identified on site and obligations of the landowners at the time of future works on the lands to undertake any obligations in accordance with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks and the Endangered Species Act.
Thank you. Did you put the same person who to second and move and second both of those proposals? Did
So
I need I didn't ask for a second, a mover or a seconder. So I wanted to know, should I have done that before you started the second proposal?
You can do that now, Deborah, I think.
Okay. Could I have a mover and a seconder for thank you, Lynn and Linda? I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay. So are there any comments or questions about this proposal, these proposals? Linda?
So just, we didn't vote on the first one. Don't we have to vote on these individually?
We did. Did we not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we-
sorry. I do remember that now.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's just
sorry.
that I forgot to ask for a mover and a seconder for the second. It's okay.
Okay,
Yeah, so both have been voted on individually.
I'm sure Mr. Davidson would have helped straighten us out if right, Mr. Davidson? So, yes, so we're moved and we're seconded. Are there any questions? Comments? Last chance? Let's vote. All in favor? Carried. Now, Helena, would you please explain what happens next?
Okay, so notice will go out later on this week, which will begin the 20-day appeal period for the applications.
Okay, is there anything else? Thank you very much for attending our meeting. And we hope to get this organized so that we can get those homes. It is a beautiful area, as you said. So we are now going to the next meeting. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53, an application for a minor variance under Section 45 of the Planning Act regarding Plan 309, part lots 1475, 1477, 1479, and 1481, known municipally as 291, 297, 299, and 319 Cook Street in the former town of Meaford, now in the municipality of Meaford. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed by Section 53, subsection 5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 14 days notice.
Yep. So this notice was published on July 13th, giving more than the required 14 days notice.
Thank you. Helena, will you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
Yep, so applications B1221 to B2221 request municipal consent to sever the subject lands for the purpose of creating 11 new lots corresponding to the 11 residential dwelling units currently under construction on the lands, with the retained parcel intended to be registered as a common elements condominium. Upon the registration of the commons elements condominium, each of the new freehold lots will become parcels of tied land tied to the common elements condominium. The retained parcel will be approximately 3.5 meters deep and extend across the Cook Street frontage, approximately 82.6 meters. Through the condominium agreement, usage of the retained parcel would be divided amongst and remain with the adjacent new lot in the form of exclusive use areas. The proposed new parcels are described per the parcel table, which was circulated per the notice of application and is also on page 221 of the agenda package. The application also requests consent for easement to provide access for the maintenance of the fence, retaining wall, and swale across the rear yard of all of the lots by the common elements condominium. Reciprocal access for maintenance across the rear yard of all of the lots for all of the individual freehold lots, and access and maintenance of utilities as required. And then application A07 2021 requests relief from zoning bylaw 60-2009 to deem the main building and all parking as established under site plan approval SP03 2020 in the site plan agreement registered on title in accordance with municipal bylaw 2021-20 to comply with zoning, notwithstanding any lot lines established through applications B12 to B22-2021. In considering any future alterations which might be proposed by individual property owners for the purposes of zoning that portion of the common elements condominium parcel measured as a projection of the side lot lines to the boundary of Cook Street, identified in the condominium agreement for the exclusive use of the adjacent parcel, shall be considered part of each individual parcel of tied land for the purposes of lot area, lot frontage, setbacks, lot coverage, provisions of parking, and frontage on a public street. And then for comments received, so Grace Abel noted that they have no objection to the subject proposal. Bell Canada and Hydro One had no objection as well. Enbridge Gas commented that they have service lines running through the area and that the applicant will need to contact them prior to any work being performed close to their services. And then Grey County noted that they had also received a condominium exemption application for this development. A decision will be rendered on the condominium exemption following the Committee of Adjustments decision on these minor variance and consent applications. County staff are of the understanding that the site plan has already been approved for this development and the units are under construction. Typically, lot creation of this volume would be via plan of subdivision or through part lot control, but county staff would note that there was pre-submission consultation dating back to May 2016 with support for the consent process. County staff have had recent and ongoing discussion with municipal staff on these applications and they had no further concerns.
Thank you. Margaret, I understand you're the planner on this. Do you have any further comments?
Yes, thank you. So Helena has outlined the details of the request and the report also was quite detailed. So just to summarize, the minor variance and consent applications have been submitted to facilitate the creation of a common elements condominium together with parcels of tied land. So that condominium needs the approval of the County of Grey, but needs some approvals at the municipal level first. The parcels of tied land would place each townhouse dwelling unit on its own freehold parcel, but providing for the long-term access to those parcels, maintenance of the water and sanitary services, shared drainage, retaining wall, and fence through the common elements condominium, and the conditions that are recommended herein. No change is proposed to the site plan approved or the location of any buildings or structures as a result of this application and these applications. So staff find that the applications are consistent with the provincial policy statement, the County of Grey and Meaford official plan, uphold the intent of the zoning bylaw, and that the variance can be found to be minor and desirable for the development of the lands and subject to the recommended conditions. We do have an addition there. So with respect to the minor variance, one condition is recommended, and it's quite simple, that the consent conditions also be approved and satisfied prior to the variance coming into effect. But for the consent, there are 7 conditions outlined in the report. On further reflection, we've added an 8th, which Helena will read in full. But although implied, staff are recommending just to formalize that the approval of the minor variance be obtained as a condition of the consents to ensure zoning compliance. That's my summary. I don't have any further comments, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Margaret. Are there any comments or questions from the committee? Okay. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make a comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before beginning. Hearing none. Helena, would you provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of severance for the application, the consult applications at B12 to B22-21, please?
Yeah, so the committee, in reviewing the subject applications, determined them to be compatible with the area, consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, consent applications B12-21, B13-21, B14-21, B15-21, B16-21, B17-21, B18-21, B19-21, B20-21, B21-21, and B22-21, and associated easements are approved, subject to the following conditions. So number one, the exclusive use of each townhouse lot, parcel of tied land over the adjacent common elements condominium for parking and driveway access to Cook Street be included in the draft condominium declaration. Number two, that as constructed servicing infrastructure be surveyed and overlaid with the draft R plan as a working drawing to be shared with the municipality to ensure all necessary servicing components are within the common element condominium parcel. Should any minor alterations to the R plan be necessary, they shall be made to the satisfaction of the municipality prior to deed stamping. Number three, that the easement wording for both common elements condominium easement and easement for reciprocal access by owners of parcels of tied land shall include a restoration clause to the satisfaction of the municipality. Number four, that the as constructed width of the retaining wall and fence and width and depth of the swale be surveyed and overlaid with the draft R plan as a working drawing to be shared with the municipality to ensure a minimum of 1.2 meters of unobstructed width is provided for the rear yard access easement to the satisfaction of the municipality. Number five, that the site triangle, part 13, be removed from the R plan with necessary related modifications such as numbering to the satisfaction of the municipality. Number six, that the provisions of municipal services to each townhouse lot, parcel of tied land over or within the adjacent common element condominium be included in the draft condominium declaration. Number seven, that the final R plan, draft easement wording, and draft condominium declaration be provided, which responds to all conditions of consent and site plan approval for review to the satisfaction of the municipality of Meaford. And finally, that approval of Committee of Adjustment minor variance application A07-2021 is obtained and conditions pertaining to the minor variance are fulfilled.
So this proposal is addressing all of these, the B12 to the B22 and the A07. Okay, I just want to make sure. Margaret.
Sorry, not the A07, but all of the consent conditions together. So provided that the motion is noted to include all of the consents and easements, then they can move forward together, if that's okay with the committee.
That's okay with me. How does anybody else feel about that? But maybe I'm confusing, but maybe I'm confused, but shouldn't A07-21 be done first and then we go back?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want Helene to have to read that whole thing again. But am I misunderstanding this? Margaret.
because of the reciprocal conditions, it isn't necessary that the other go first because we've made the variance a condition of the consents. But if the committee wishes to hear the variance first, that's okay too.
Committee? So Lynn has said that she wants to hear A 07 first. Does anybody else wish to hear it first? Okay, so we're gonna do it this way. Your way, Margaret, okay? Helena's way, so she doesn't have to read that over again. May I have a move?
So I don't mind.
Okay. May I have a person to move and second the proposal? Linda is moving. Is anyone going to second it? Terry is. No, are there any comments or questions? Terry.
I had one question. Were any of the units already sold prior to this change?
Who can answer that? Margaret?
I'm actually not aware. I believe the applicant may be on the call. His name is showing up, but he may be able to answer that question if he's available to do.
We have a Blake Tons that.
Yes.
Does
Sorry,
he
I'm
wish
here.
to-
Yeah,
Okay.
through you, Chair.
Yes.
Yes, the units were previously sold. Actually, all of the units have been sold to date on the project. I should actually clarify, I am not the owner, but I'm here to represent the owner today as they could not make an appearance. However, this application was anticipated from a very early stage. As Helena indicated in her introduction, this project has been moving through the planning process for a period of about 5 years now. And so this application was contemplated from the beginning and was always anticipated to occur at the stage that it is today. Thank you.
So my question is, was this anticipated by all of the people that have bought a unit? Were they buying it with the belief that they were going to own the lot?
Through you, Chair. Yes, that was always the intention and was conveyed to all of the purchasers of the eventual homes.
Thank you.
Any other question? Okay. I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor? Carried. Helena, do you want to read A07 now? Please.
Sorry. Decision A07-21 will read, being that the four tests have been satisfied, the committee hereby approves a variance to zoning bylaw 60-2009 as amended to deem the main building and all parking as established under site plan approval to comply with zoning as further described in the notice of complete application and public meeting relative to the new lot lines created by consent applications B12-21 to B22-21 inclusive, subject to the following condition. The fulfillment of all applicable conditions to consent applications B12 to B22-21.
May I have a mover and someone to second? Ed and Terry. Are there any questions or comments? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Helena, would you please explain? Oh, yes. Would you please explain what happens next for Mr. Johnson?
Yep, so notice will go out later this week, and that will begin the 20-day appeal period for the applications.
Okay, Mr. Johnson?
Through you, Chair. Sorry, I just wanted to make a quick statement, as I believe this may be the last time we appear in front of the committee on this site. Just wanted to quickly thank both the committee as well as the members of staff, as this project has been under review for quite a period of time. As I previously indicated, I was present at the pre-con application back in 2016 and again at the delegation we made before the committee in 2019 for the variance application. So just, yeah, a quick thank you for everyone's time and for your consideration today.
Great. Thank you very much for your time too, to make sure that we understood everything. Thank you. Okay, does anybody, so we're going to have the last meeting of the day. This is the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 53 of the Planning Act concerning St. Vincent Concession 12, Part Lot 3, known municipally as 206663. Oh, wait a minute. Highway 26 in the former township of St. Vincent, now in the municipality of Meaford. Ed, this is the one concerning the one that you spoke to before. Do you wish to? Are you leaving?
Oh, well, I can just let you in if that's the case. I just won't have any comment or any vote.
Okay. Okay, because you don't have a conflict of pecuniary interest.
No, no.
Okay.
And if you want me to, I can excuse myself for sure.
I don't see a problem with that. Ed, how does the staff feel about that? Do you see any legal problem with that? We don't seem to have any. So Ed, please stay. I reminded myself after I started, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed by Section 53, subsection 5 of the Planning Act. Helena, please confirm to me the day the notice was published and calculate that we've had at least 14 days notice.
Yep, so this notice was published on July 13th, giving more than the required 14 days notice.
Thank you. Helena, will you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received concerning this proposal?
Yep, so application B23-21 requests municipal consent to sever a portion of land with existing apple trees measuring approximately 5.2 acres in size with approximately 163 meters of frontage on Highway 26 for the purpose of lot addition to the abutting parcel with existing dwelling to the west. The septic system that services the dwelling on 206-665 Highway 26 encroaches onto the proposed severed parcel. Therefore, the request has been submitted so that the septic system servicing the dwelling will be located on the correct property, and so that the system can be upgraded and replaced in order to comply with the Ontario Building Code. Well, the lot addition will also facilitate ongoing agricultural use of the existing orchard by the owners of 206-665 Highway 26. The retained parcel of land with an existing structure historically used as a farm produce outlet and known as the Almonds Market will maintain an area of approximately 5.7 acres with approximately 421 meters of frontage on Highway 26. And will facilitate future agricultural and agricultural related uses. And then for comments received, our municipal building department noted that there is record of an existing septic system on the lands and that they have no concerns at this time going forward. Grace Abel generally had no objection to the subject proposal. Gray County noted that they are generally supportive of the subject application for a lot severance and addition, provided that the severed lands are added to lot 206-665 Highway 26, and that any destruction of existing apple orchards for future development is minimized, and if positive comments are received from Grace Apple and the Ministry of Transportation. And Bell Canada and Hydro One had no objection to the application. And Enbridge Gas commented that they do have service lines running through the area and that the applicant will need to contact them prior to any work being done. And that's it.
Thank you. Kirsten, do you have any further comments?
Yes, thank you. So the lot's designated special agricultural, and it's somewhat U-shaped with a residential property being located in the middle of the lot. It's undersized based on the special agricultural standard for a farm-sized parcel, which is 10 hectares or 25 acres, I think. The special agricultural consent policies permit lot adjustments for legal or technical reasons. So adding a septic system over to the appropriate lot that it services is considered a legal or technical reason. Generally, the policy would only support adding over only the amount of land that's required to accommodate the septic system, but based on the irregular shape of this lot and the significant amount of environmental protection lands on the east half of the severed lot, and the intention of the landowner to maintain the existing apple orchard, staff are satisfied that the official plan policy has been addressed and are recommending approval subject to conditions, which are that the severed parcel is merged on title with the abutting residential parcel, and based on Grace Auble and the County of Gray's recommendations, we're recommending also that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to act as notification of those recommendations to ensure site alteration for the proposed septic system maintains a setback of 50 meters or more from the East Meaford Creek area of natural science and scientific interest, and that appropriate sediment and erosion control measures are implemented during construction and site grading for the septic improvements, which also minimizes disturbance to orchard trees, and to serve as notification of the potential species at risk habitat that have been identified on site, and the obligations of the landowners at the time of future works on the lands to undertake any obligation in accordance with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to add, but I'm happy to address any questions.
Thank you. Terry, you have a question.
Just a quick question. The sketch wasn't completely clear, but I just want to clarify the small area of land behind 206665. Is that included in the portion being severed? So it will transfer to that home?
Yes, I believe so. And I think Kristen, who is the planner, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but that is my understanding. Yeah, the back portion will be added.
Okay, thank you.
Is that correct?
For you, Madam Chair, yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions coming from the committee? All right. I now call upon the members of the public present who wish to make comment on this application. Please state your name for the record before starting.
Madam Chair. My name is Kristen Rennie. I'm from Georgian Planning Solutions, and I'm the agent acting on behalf of the application.
Yes.
I do have a presentation that I will run through, the one we tried to do earlier, but we're going to do it now.
You were trying to confuse us, that's all.
I know, sorry. You know, keep you on your toes. If you could go to the next slide, please. As mentioned in the notice, the purpose of the meeting this afternoon is to consider application for consent B2321, which is a lot line adjustment. Next slide, please. This is the subject lands located at 20663 Highway 26. Most people would be familiar with the almond fruit stand. So that's the location. Next slide, please. You can go to the next slide because Kirsten covered all this. So the intent is for a lot addition to sever approximately 2.1 hectares and add to the adjacent residential parcel or a parcel with the dwelling to the west. The retained parcel would have an area of 2.3 hectares. And I just want to note that there are no new lots being created as part of this request. Next slide, please. This might help with the previous question. Thank you. So it just sort of shows the delineation of the severed parcel and where it would be added to in the retained parcel as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is okay. So as mentioned in the notice, the intent of the application is to facilitate an existing septic system that is not located on the same property or in totality. A little bit of it is on the property, that it is actually functioning for the dwelling. The existing system will also need to be replaced in order to meet the Ontario Building Code requirements. You can see on the property there's a red line that shows a distance between the septic and the well. And so the well is located in the front of the house. And so the septic system cannot go in the front portion of the land just based on required setbacks. It's a dug well. And so a minimum of 30 meters is required from the building code in order to upgrade the septic system. What else was I going to say? As part of the submission, and you did probably get a copy of my planning justification report, and Kirsten noted this as well, that typically when we're doing a technical or legal amendment, we try to use the smallest portion of the land to accommodate the use that needs to be transferred to the adjacent property. And so based on setback requirements and the setbacks from the existing structure or the existing well, and by the time we sort of carved out that section, it became quite close to the hazard area, which is a fairly significant portion of the land, as mentioned by the Conservation Authority as well in their comments. And so with a conversation between myself, Kirsten, and the County of Grey planner, Scott Taylor, and knowing that we would not be able to get an entrance permit off of Highway 26, partly because Highway 26 permits from the MTO are very difficult, but we also have a requirement to close one of the existing entrances that are already on the property. So we do know the direction in which they would be sending us. So based on that, and then the inability to sort of access that property and the desire of the property owner who was receiving that area to farm it or to continue with the apple orchard, they actually have a relationship with an organization that helps to maintain heritage trees, taking the apples and then making them into cider in our area, which is pretty exciting. So based on my opinion, I think that the adjustment is appropriate for what we're proposing. There's no creation of a new lot. It allows for the existing and upgraded septic system to be on the same property as the main dwelling that's utilizing it. And in my opinion, I don't believe that at the end of the day, there's any impact on the uniqueness of the entrance into Meaford as the Apple Gateway, which are some of the language that's in the official plan. In addition, in terms of the conditions associated with the consent, are the person who is going to be receiving the lands who would be required to take on the agreement. I believe that he would be satisfied with those conditions. He is on the line if we wanted to get confirmation on that, but I do believe that he would be satisfied with the conditions that were put forth with the application approval. And with that said, that's really all that I have to say. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, are there any questions or comments? Mr. Fisher, do you wish to speak? No, okay. Helena, please provide us with the suggested decision and condition severance for application number B2321.
Deborah?
What have I done?
No, it just looks like Tim has his hand up, so he might.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Can
I
you
see.
hear me?
I'm
Can you hear
sorry.
me?
I apologize.
Yeah, we can
Mr.
hear
Fisher?
you.
Please
Yeah,
go
so-
ahead. That's my fault.
No problem. Thank you for the time. Again, my name's Tim Fisher. I live here. The intent is to probably remove about 20 trees when we do the septic, but there's already an area of trees that have been taken down. So our plan is to add 2 trees for every one we take out. And we're looking at putting a bee set up on the property as well.
I see. Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. Does anyone have a question for Mr. Fisher? Okay. Helena, please provide us with the suggested decision and conditions of severance for consent application B 23-21.
Yep. So decision B 23-2021 will read, the committee in reviewing the subject application determined it to be compatible with the area consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement and the Meaford official plan. Thus, the application is approved subject to the following conditions. 1, that the severed parcel arising from the consent be permanently merged on title with the abutting lot and any mortgage on that lot be extended to the enlarged parcel. 2, that a 1 square foot land dedication be granted to the Municipality of Meaford should it be necessary in order to facilitate a permanent merge on title of the severed lands with the abutting parcel. And 3, that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title to act as notification of Grey Saubles and the County of Grey's recommendations to ensure site alteration for the proposed septic system maintains a setback of 50 meters or more from the East Meaford Creek area of natural and scientific interest, and that appropriate sediment and erosion control measures are implemented. I apologize, I have a dog sneezing in the background.
That's quite all right.
Sorry.
That's quite all right.
And that appropriate sediment and erosion control measures are implemented during construction and site grading for the septic improvements, which also minimize disturbance to orchard trees, and to serve as notification of the potential species at risk habitat identified on site and obligations of the landowners at the time of future works on the lands to undertake any obligations in accordance with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks and the Endangered Species Act.
Thank you. May I have someone move that and second it? Mover is Terry and Lynn is second. Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions at this time? Okay. I will now call for the vote. All in favor? That has passed. Helena, would you please explain what happens next?
Yep, so again, Kristen, notice will go out at the end of the week and that will begin the 20-day appeal period.
Thank you. Thank you very much for attending, and best of luck, Mr. Fisher. Yeah,
I thank you very much and thank you all for your time.
you're welcome. Now, is there any other business? Now, the next meeting is tentatively on August 25th at 3 o'clock. Are there applications already?
Yes, I believe we will have that.
Okay, that's good. Is there anything else that anyone wishes to say? Okay,
are we going back to?
This is Zoom. The next one's on Zoom, from what I understand, correct?
Yeah, the next one I believe will be on Zoom, but we might be going back to in person in September. depending on what council decides. But that's kind of the word on the street. So that'll be nice if we can get back to in person.
Yeah, it would be. I understand that there is, now there's more people getting, there could be another wave, unfortunately.
Yeah, so
Anyway.
again, we'll have to wait and see again.
Yeah.
Hard to make these decisions.
Well, I thank all of you for your participation, and I'll call this meeting adjourned.
Don't forget to come by.